you today. Don't turn. Amazing.
Don't force me out of bed in your society. Don't.
Hi, welcome back to the Gloria and Jan YouTube channel. So today we are back with a new video. We are going to be talking about scary urban legends from Puerto Rico. And so that's what we're going to be doing. Let's get right into the video. So the story is called The Hacho Centeno. So this story is about a farmer. And the farmer, he ended up going to go fish, but he stayed up really late. So he ended up going back home in the dark. So he was walking to go back to his house, and he ended up having a lantern to guide him, like, you know, through the darkness. But the lantern ends up like turning off. And when he's like halfway through, I don't know if it's halfway through or maybe like even farther away than before he reaches home, he sort of is like, I don't know if you guys know, but like, if you're in a place that's like mostly farmland or like the forest and there's no light, like it's pitch black, like it's just pitch black. So he needed light to get back, so he ended up looking through all of his stuff, and the only thing he could find was a crucifix, so a cross. That's all he could find, and he ends up lighting it up on fire to, like, you know, guide him home. He ends up reaching home, and then after a few days he ends up dying from like a really bad illness. Like he just got a really bad illness, and he ended up passing away all of a sudden. Yeah. So then they say that if you ever see a little light like in the forest or like in the woods, in this specific place, it's in Puerto Rico, but it's in Orocovis, I think that's how you pronounce it, Orocovis. And they say that if in Orocovis you see a little light like in the forest, that it's the man, because he was condemned to have to pick up every single ash from the crucifix and put it back together or something. No, that's actually kind of scary then. It's probably in these like really dark areas. Gotta watch out, you guys. You gotta watch out. I wonder if it's just like a floating light, you know, or if you see a shadow with the floating light. I don't know. So this story is based off of a place in Puerto Rico. It's called Puente Las Calabazas in Coamo. And it's said that there's a bridge in this specific place, and that whenever people are driving by, that sometimes they'll get asked by a woman like in the middle of the bridge if they could stop and give her a ride, you know, across the bridge. But they say that once the woman gets in the car and you start driving, and if you get past the bridge, she'll start yelling like uncontrollably, she'll start crying, and she'll be like, but they say that it's so loud that it causes the driver to like lose focus and like freak out, and they end up going to go crash. No matter what, they just end up crashing because this woman is like screaming and yelling like uncontrollably, like as if she's like losing her mind and stuff, like, you know, like it scares the drivers that bad that they end up going to go crash. But the thing is that they say that happens, but then sometimes they say that if you just, like, you know, you might not see her or just ignore her, you just keep on driving. They say that sometimes you might be driving, and then when you're past the, I guess, reaching the end of the bridge, if you look in the rearview mirror, sometimes you'll see her sitting already in the back of your seat. Even if you didn't stop for her and pick her up, she'll be sitting there. Yeah. No. And that's scary. And they say that they think that this woman is La Llorona, you know. And La Llorona, if you guys know, is just a woman that ends up. Some people have different versions of it, but the Llorona is basically a woman that drowned her children, and then she's like condemned to have to look for them in her afterlife, I guess you could say, to find her children. And so, usually if she hears crying children, I think it is, or children just by themselves, she'll basically kidnap them and then take them to a river and drown them as well, just like she did to her own kids. And I don't remember the story that well, but I know that like she does it out of like, is it like hatred that her kids are dead? To kill other kids? Yeah, I think so. Like she's looking for her kids, and then she's like, this ain't my kid, so then she gets rid of that kid, and she just continues walking around doing that, terrorizing families. Like in the middle of the night and stuff. Yeah, like, because usually it says that it happens at nighttime. I feel like it's sort of like trying to remind you to lock your doors and don't stop for no one when you're driving, no matter what, because it's not, you don't know who you're gonna be driving. That's still scary though, because she could still be in the back seat if you don't give her a ride. But even if you give her a ride, it's still bad. The next one isn't really a story. I wanted to incorporate something a little bit different because most of them are just like, you know, sort of the same stuff that's going on. So the next one is actually a true story. It's something that happened in Puerto Rico, but it was in the 1940s. So there was a man called Francisco Antonio Lopez Garcia. He was born in the 1940s, and he lived in a small mountain village in Puerto Rico. And they say that in between the 1960s, he was arrested because he murdered his wife. And then they put him in jail and they sentenced him for 185 years in prison. But they said that after the first 2 years, he escapes. Yeah. So they end up finding him and they put him back into, you know, the prison, and then he escapes again. Yeah. And when he escapes this time, they don't catch this man. They just don't catch him anymore.
They just can't find him?
They can't find him no more. End up finding him a little bit later on, but they think that he was in charge. That he was not in charge. They think that he was, ¿cómo se dice? There was a lot of cases of women being killed and murdered in Puerto Rico, and they trying to connect him to the murders because, I mean, he murdered his wife. And they did say that after he got out of prison that second time and they couldn't find him anymore, they said that he ended up going back to murder the rest of his family. So this man was just clearly killing, and I think he was moving around to different places, so they think that he was killing women, but they do not know how many women exactly he killed, because in Puerto Rico there was so many like women being killed around this time period that, like, I mean, if you think about it, the 1960s, like, that's when like what Ted Bundy was going around here in the US too, you know, for some reason.
Wasn't it the 80s?
Was it the 80s?
I don't know.
But well, whatever, the 60s, 70s, and 80s, there was murderers everywhere for some reason. He was like just crazy, and they did try to put a lot of things that he kidnapped a lot of young women and then ended up killing them. So they just ended up thinking that he did all this.
So they just put him like he is the prime suspect.
They just think that, well, they just sort of blamed it on him,
but there's no evidence.
No.
So they just put it on him because he's a murderer.
Yeah, because he's a murderer. They just sort of. Because they say
that's sus.
During this time he killed numerous of his own family members and committed several kidnappings of young women. In 1995, he was found on a coffee plantation in Castaner, Puerto Rico, in a little tiny town.
When they found him, they killed him, huh? Because they're like, he was found on a coffee plantation
and killed. So I guess he just found him and shot him up.
And killed, yeah. It is unclear how many of the crimes contributed to him were actually committed by Toño, as many locals on the island claimed that police used him as a scapegoat for numerous unsolved crimes across that area.
That's a thing that I feel like, okay, he might have killed these women, but in reality there was never set proof that he did murder them.
Yeah.
They just think that he might have kidnapped them and killed them, but it's not sure.
Yeah, it's not sure, but if you think about it,
the police just took it.
Yeah, they just needed a villain for these.
Because if you think about it, he didn't even have a chance. They killed him before they could put him in trial.
Yeah, but he did kill like a bunch of his family members.
His family members.
So obviously he was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but
I don't know why they call him Toño, but his name is Francisco Antonio Lopez Garcia.
Probably they call him that because his name is so long.
Probably it's because of the Antonio.
I mean, like
Toño. Antonio?
Oh, yeah.
It's probably Antonio. That's why I call him Toño.
You know, Central Americans, us Latinos, have very long names.
And they like giving everybody nicknames. I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
We just went somewhere. You guys don't know yet. But we came back. We're back in the US. We're back in America. But, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So he still is a villain, though, because he did murder his wife, his family members. He is a villain, but all these unsolved cases went on him instead of being actually solved, and I guess it's hard to solve some cold cases sometimes. But
I don't know how their government system works though either.
Yeah.
So it just and it was in the late 19.
Because that's kind of scary, because that means there might be a bunch of murderers.
Early 90s, right? Middle 90s.
Well, that sucks because that means that there might be a bunch of like killers and psychopaths that like got away with it just because it was put on him. So somebody that killed somebody might still be running around. Yeah.
They might be in their 70s now. You never know. Maybe your grandparent killed someone. you wouldn't know. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, guys, so we're ending our video. I hope you guys liked it. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment down below. Remember to hit the
Notification bell.
Yes, notification bell.
If you have any family from Puerto Rico, make sure to share this video with them. Or if you have any family from other Central American countries like Mexico, El Salvador, Nicaragua, we have a bunch of videos on those countries. So you can go click on those and then send them over to your family, and maybe it's a new story they've never heard about before. Like El Tabú for El Salvador. My parents know that story, so
You haven't heard it?
mm-hmm.
Bye, guys.